Everyone laughed at him, called him worthless, a nobody. But 24 hours later, a private jet landed. And the same man they mocked, owned everything they stood on. Welcome back to Prime Tale. Today's story will shock you, anger you, and leave you speechless. Stay till the end because the twist changes everything. Subscribe to my channel for more story. The wind that night didn't just blow, it howled. It carried the kind of cold that slipped through fabric, through skin, and settled deep into the bones. The kind of cold that didn't just make you shiver, it made you feel alone. Streetlights flickered lazily above the quiet road, casting long shadows that stretched across the pavement like silent witnesses to everything people refused to see. And right there, beneath one of those dim lights, he sat. Still. Unnoticed. A man most people had already decided wasn't worth noticing. His jacket was thin, far too thin for a night like this. The edges were worn, threads loosening like they had given up trying to hold together. His shoes had seen better days, better years, even. But it wasn't just his appearance. It was the way people reacted to him. Or more accurately, the way they didn't. Couples walked past, laughing, completely absorbed in their own world. A group of young men passed by, their voices loud, confident, until one of them glanced at him. Then came the smirk. Man, look at that guy. Probably drunk or something. Or just lazy. They didn't stop. They didn't care. Because it's easier to judge someone than to understand them. Inside the restaurant just a few feet away, the atmosphere couldn't have been more different. Warm light. Soft music. The smell of fresh food drifting through the air like comfort you could breathe in. Plates clinked. Glasses tapped. Conversations overlapped. Life felt normal. Safe. Easy. And moving quickly between tables was Emily. She wasn't the fastest waitress. She wasn't the most experienced. But she noticed things. Little things. The kind of things most people ignore. Like how a customer forced a smile even when they looked exhausted. Or how someone stared at their phone a little too long, like they were waiting for a message that never came. Emily didn't just serve food. She saw people. And that's what made her different. That's what made this moment inevitable. She carried a tray toward a table near the window, balancing it carefully as laughter echoed around her. But then, something pulled her attention. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet feeling. Her eyes drifted toward the glass window. And that's when she saw him. Sitting outside. Alone. Completely still. At first glance, he looked like just another homeless man. The kind people had trained themselves to ignore. But something about him felt different. It wasn't desperation. It wasn't chaos. It was calm. Too calm. Like he wasn't waiting for anything. Like he had already accepted everything. Emily paused for just a second. And in that second, everything began to change. Because most people would have looked away. Most people did look away. But she didn't. She kept looking. And the longer she looked, the harder it became to ignore the reality in front of her. His hands were slightly trembling, not aggressively, but just enough to show the cold was winning. His eyes weren't scanning for help. They weren't begging. They were distant. Like someone who had learned, expecting kindness only leads to disappointment. And that hit her. Harder than she expected. Emily, a voice called from behind. She snapped back. Yeah, coming. She forced herself to move again, placing plates down, nodding politely, doing everything she was supposed to do. But her mind was still outside. Still on him. Because something didn't feel right. Not just about him. but about the fact that everyone else was okay pretending he didn't exist. Minutes passed. Then more. But that feeling didn't go away. It grew. Until finally, she couldn't ignore it anymore. Emily stood behind the counter, her hands resting lightly against the surface, but her mind was somewhere else entirely. Outside. Still. On him. The restaurant buzzed around her, orders being called, dishes clattering, conversations rising and falling, but it all felt distant now. Like background noise. Because once you truly see something, you can't unsee it. Table 6 needs their check, the manager called out. Got it, she replied automatically. She printed it. Delivered it. Smiled. Nodded. Played her role perfectly. But inside, there was a quiet battle happening. A simple question repeating itself over and over again. Are you really just going to do nothing? She tried to ignore it. Tried to rationalize it. It's not my responsibility. There are shelters. Someone else will help. But deep down, she knew the truth. No one had helped. No one was helping. And someone else was just an excuse people used to avoid action. She glanced outside again. He hadn't moved much. Still sitting there. Still alone. Still, invisible. That was it. Decision made. Emily turned quickly, grabbing a takeout bag from the counter. She moved toward the kitchen. Hey, what are you doing? A coworker asked. Just, taking something out, she replied. Manager's gonna be mad if. I'll handle it. Her voice wasn't loud. But it was firm. Because sometimes doing the right thing requires you to stop asking for permission. She filled the bag carefully. Fresh bread. Hot meal. Something warm. Something real. Not leftovers. Not scraps. Something she would give to anyone else. Because dignity matters. Even when no one is watching. And especially when no one is watching. She took a deep breath. Then pushed the door open. The cold hit her instantly. Sharp. Unforgiving. But she didn't hesitate. Step by step, she walked toward him. Her heart beat a little faster, not from fear, but from uncertainty. Not knowing how he'd react. Not knowing if she was crossing a line. But still. She kept going. Hey, she said softly. The man looked up. And for a split second. There it was. Surprise. Not dramatic. Not exaggerated. Just subtle. Because he wasn't used to this. Not anymore. I don't have money, he said quickly. His voice carried something deeper than the words. Not just explanation. Defense. Like he had been in this situation before. And knew how it usually ended. Emily shook her head gently. That's not why I'm here. She held out the bag. Warmth escaping slightly into the cold air. He looked at it. Then back at her. Then at it again. Like his mind was trying to process something unfamiliar. Kindness, without condition. Why? He asked. One word. But heavy. Because people don't usually ask why when they receive help. Unless they've learned that help usually comes with strings attached. Emily smiled. Not wide. Not forced. Just, real. Because you look like you need it. Simple. Honest. No hidden meaning. And that's what made it powerful. For a moment. He didn't move. Because trust isn't something you switch on instantly. It's something life slowly takes away. But eventually. He reached out. Slowly. Carefully. Like the moment itself might break if he rushed it. His fingers brushed against the bag. Warm. Real. Not imagined. He took it. Holding it like it mattered. Because it did. "Thank you," he said quietly. Emily nodded once. "No problem." And just like that, she turned and walked back. No waiting. No expectation. No need for recognition. Because she didn't do it to feel good. She did it because it was right. But behind her, something had already started shifting. Something invisible. Something powerful. Because sometimes, the smallest action creates the biggest ripple. And neither of them knew it yet. But by this time tomorrow, everything would be different. The night grew quieter. Not peaceful, just empty. The kind of silence that settles after the world decides it's done paying attention. Streetlights hummed faintly. The wind slowed, but the cold stayed, lingering, stubborn, like it refused to let go. Inside the restaurant, the last few customers paid and left. Chairs scraped lightly against the floor. Staff moved slower now, their energy drained from hours of work. Emily wiped down a table near the window. Her movements were automatic. But her mind wasn't. It drifted. Back to him. She glanced outside again. He was still there. Sitting in almost the exact same position. But now, he was eating. Slowly. Carefully. Not like someone starving. But like someone who understood the value of every bite. That detail stuck with her. Because hunger usually comes with urgency. But he wasn't rushing. He was present. And something about that didn't match the story people would assume about him. "Emily, we're closing up," the manager called. "Yeah, almost done," she replied. She looked outside one last time. For reasons she couldn't explain. And for a brief second, their eyes met. No words. No gestures. Just a quiet moment of recognition. Then she turned away. Finished her shift. And left. But the story didn't end there. Not even close. Minutes passed. Then more. The restaurant lights dimmed. The streets emptied further. And then, headlights appeared. Not just any headlights. Bright. Controlled. Deliberate. A black SUV rolled slowly down the street. Too smooth. Too precise. Too intentional to be random. It didn't speed. Didn't hesitate. It pulled up directly in front of the sidewalk. Right where the man sat. The engine didn't roar. It purred. Quiet power. The kind that doesn't need attention. Because it already owns it. The doors opened. Two men stepped out. Dressed in dark suits. Sharp lines. Clean posture. Alert eyes. Not security guards. Not assistants. Something more refined. They didn't look around. Didn't question where they were. They walked straight toward him. Like they already knew exactly where to go. "Sir." The word cut through the silence. Respectful. Clear. Immediate. The man didn't react right away. He finished chewing. Swallowed. Then slowly lifted his head. And in that moment, everything changed. The hesitation was gone. The fragility people assumed about him disappeared. What replaced it was something else entirely. Control. Calm. Authority. "Is everything ready?" he asked. His voice was steady. Measured. Not loud. But it didn't need to be. Because power doesn't shout. It's understood. Yes, sir, one of the men replied instantly. All arrangements have been completed. The acquisition went through without resistance. A pause. A very small one. But heavy. Because those words didn't belong to the version of him people thought they knew. The man stood up slowly. No struggle. No stiffness. Just deliberate movement. Like someone who was never weak. Only waiting. His eyes drifted toward the restaurant. Toward the same window where Emily had stood earlier. There was no smile. No dramatic reaction. Just a quiet acknowledgement. Interesting, he murmured under his breath. The second man stepped forward slightly. The car is ready, sir. The man nodded once. But before stepping in, he looked down at the empty food bag still in his hand. He didn't throw it away. Didn't drop it carelessly. He folded it. Carefully. Neatly. Like it mattered. Because it did. Kindness, he said softly, almost to himself, still exists. Then he stepped into the SUV. The doors closed. And within seconds, the vehicle disappeared into the night, leaving behind nothing but silence. And a reality no one in that restaurant would believe. If they had seen it, morning came fast. Too fast. Like the night hadn't fully finished telling its story. The city woke up in layers, car engines, distant horns, hurried footsteps, the usual rhythm of people chasing time. And just like every other day, the restaurant opened. Lights on. Doors unlocked. Coffee brewing. Everything felt normal. Too normal. Emily tied her apron, stepping behind the counter as she prepared for another shift. Same routine. Same motions. Same expectations. But something felt different. Not visibly. Not obviously. Just a subtle shift. Like the air itself was holding something back. "You okay?" a coworker asked. "Yeah, just tired," she replied. But that wasn't it. Not really. It was something else. Something she couldn't quite name. And then it started. One car. Then another. Then another. Black. Polished. Expensive. Pulling up outside one after the other. Too many to ignore. Too coordinated to be coincidence. Customers noticed first. Heads turned. Conversations slowed. Phones came out. What's going on? Is someone important here? Is this some kind of event? The manager stepped forward, adjusting his shirt nervously. "I'll handle this," he muttered, heading toward the entrance. But before he could reach the door, it opened. And the entire atmosphere shifted. Silence. Instant. Heavy. Because the man who walked in was not the same man they expected. Tailored suit. Perfect fit. Clean lines. Every detail sharp, intentional, powerful. His presence didn't ask for attention. It commanded it. And yet, there was something familiar. Something that didn't quite match the image. Emily felt it first. A strange pull in her chest. Her eyes locked onto him. Trying to process. Trying to understand. And then it hit her. Hard. Her breath caught. Because beneath the transformation, it was him. The same man from last night. The one sitting in the cold. The one she gave food to. The one everyone ignored. Now standing there like he owned the room. Because he did. The manager approached quickly, forcing a polite smile. "Good morning, sir. Welcome. How can we assist you?" The man didn't respond immediately. He looked around. slowly, taking in every detail, every face, every reaction. Then his eyes landed on Emily. Just for a second. But it was enough. Recognition. Confirmed. Then he looked back at the manager. And spoke. Calm. Direct. Controlled. "You can start," he said. "By bringing me the ownership documents." Silence exploded across the room. Not loud. But heavy. Confusing. Unbelievable. "I'm sorry, what?" the manager stammered. The man tilted his head slightly. "I purchased this restaurant early this morning." No hesitation. No emotion. Just fact. And in that moment, everything broke. Because reality had just flipped. Silence has a weight. And right now, it was crushing. No one in the restaurant moved. No one spoke. Even the soft background music suddenly felt too loud, too out of place, like it didn't belong in a moment this serious. "I purchased this restaurant early this morning." Those words didn't just land. They echoed. Over and over again inside every single person in that room. The manager blinked. Once. Twice. Like his brain was trying to catch up with reality, and failing. "I think there's been some kind of mistake," he said, his voice unsteady now. The man didn't argue. Didn't raise his voice. Didn't try to convince anyone. Because he didn't need to. Instead, he reached into his jacket slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a folder. Clean. Structured. Official. He handed it over. The manager hesitated before taking it. But when he did, everything changed. His eyes scanned the first page. Then the second. Then the third. And just like that, the color drained from his face. Because it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't confusion. It was real. Every signature. Every stamp. Every legal confirmation. Final. Complete. Irreversible. His hands trembled slightly as he lowered the documents. You own this place," he whispered. The man met his eyes calmly. Yes. No emotion. No pride. Just truth. And suddenly, the entire room felt smaller. Because power had just entered the space. And everyone could feel it. Emily stood frozen behind the counter. Her heart was beating faster now. Not from fear. But from realization. Her mind replayed the night before. Over and over again. The cold. The silence. The moment she handed him the food. And now. This. The contrast was overwhelming. "How?" she whispered under her breath. But deep down, she already knew the answer didn't matter. Because what mattered was this. She helped him when she thought he had nothing. And now he had everything. The man took a slow step forward. Then another. Every movement controlled. Measured. Intentional. People instinctively moved out of his way. Not because they were told to. But because something in them understood. This wasn't someone you stood in front of. This was someone you made space for. His shoes made soft contact with the floor as he walked closer to the counter. Closer to Emily. The distance between them shrinking with every step. The room held its breath. Waiting. Watching. Expecting something dramatic. Something harsh. Something vengeful. Because that's what people are used to. Power equals revenge. Wealth equals ego. But what happened next? No one expected, because that's what people are used to. Power equals revenge. Wealth equals ego. But what happened next? No one expected. He stopped in front of her. Close enough now. Close enough to see the slight tension in her hands. The uncertainty in her eyes. The quiet question she didn't ask. For a moment. He just looked at her. Not coldly. Not intensely. Just, thoughtfully. Like he was measuring something far more important than status. Then. He spoke. You didn't know who I was. His voice was calm. Steady. Emily swallowed slightly. No. I didn't. A small pause. The kind that stretches just long enough to build tension. And you helped anyway. She nodded. Slowly. Because there was no other answer. She started, but stopped herself. Because how do you explain something that simple? Kindness doesn't come with a script. You just did the right thing, he finished for her. And in that moment, something shifted again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was respect. The man turned slightly, his gaze sweeping across the room. Every employee. Every customer. Every single person who had been part of this place. Some of you saw me last night, he said. No one responded. No one dared to. You saw me sitting outside. A pause. Still silence. You made a decision. His tone didn't rise. Didn't accuse. But somehow. It felt heavier than shouting. You decided I wasn't worth your attention. A few people looked down. Others avoided eye contact completely. Because deep down, they knew. He wasn't wrong. Then. He turned back to Emily. And everything changed again. Because this part wasn't about judgment. It was about something else entirely. Something far more powerful. Recognition. The tension in the room hadn't disappeared. If anything, it had deepened. But now it carried something else alongside it. Anticipation. Because everyone felt it. Something big was about to happen. And all eyes were locked on Emily. She stood there, unsure of what to do with her hands, her thoughts racing faster than she could control. This wasn't her world. This level of attention. This level of intensity. She was just a waitress. Or at least, that's what she thought. The man reached into his jacket again. Slowly. This time, he pulled out a different set of papers. Thicker. More detailed. He placed them gently on the counter in front of her. The sound was soft. But it echoed. Because in that moment, those papers carried weight far beyond what anyone could see. I believe actions should have consequences, he said. The room went still again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was curiosity. And I believe kindness. He paused. Looking directly at her. Should be rewarded. Emily's breath caught. Because something in his tone told her. This wasn't small. This wasn't symbolic. Because for once, doing the right thing didn't go unnoticed. It didn't get ignored. It didn't get taken for granted. It came back. Bigger than she ever imagined. Around them, the room remained completely still. Because everyone understood something now. Something undeniable. Power doesn't always reward power. Sometimes. It rewards kindness. Silence didn't leave the room. It settled. Heavy. Unavoidable. Honest. The kind of silence that forces people to sit with their own thoughts, whether they want to or not. Emily still stood behind the counter, her eyes fixed on the papers in front of her, her mind racing through possibilities she never imagined for herself. But around her, Something else was happening. Something quieter. Something deeper. People were starting to realize what this moment meant for them. Not just her. The manager shifted uncomfortably. His confidence, the authority he carried just minutes ago, had completely disappeared. Replaced by uncertainty. Because power had changed hands. And not gradually. Not subtly. Instantly. He cleared his throat, stepping forward carefully. "Sir. I wasn't aware of any of this," he said, trying to regain some control over the situation. The man turned his head slightly toward him. Not aggressively. That line hit hard. Because it stripped everything down to its core. No titles. No money. No status. Just behavior. Just character. One of the staff members lowered her gaze, her fingers tightening slightly around the edge of a table. Another quietly stepped back, as if creating distance from the moment itself. Because when people are confronted with truth, they either face it, or they try to escape it. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone," the man continued. "And I'm not here for revenge." That caught people off guard. Because that's what they expected. That's what stories usually become. Payback. Humiliation. Power used to crush. But this was different. "I'm here to make a change," he said. And that's when the tension shifted again. Not gone. But transformed. Not dismissively. Just aware. "That's correct," he replied calmly. A pause. "You weren't aware." Simple words. But they carried weight. Because ignorance, in this moment, wasn't an excuse. It was the problem. "You saw someone in need," the man continued. "And instead of asking questions, you made assumptions." The manager's lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Because there was nothing to defend. Nothing to explain. Truth doesn't leave much room for excuses. "I run businesses based on standards," the man said, his voice still steady, still controlled. But more importantly, he glanced around the room again. That line hit hard. Because it stripped everything down to its core. No titles. No money. No status. Just behavior. Just character.